My goal this week is to complete my brainstorming for my fantasy novel. Hello and welcome to another writing vlog. If you're new here, my name is Stephanie and I am writing a novel for the very first time with absolutely no writing experience. Recently, I just trashed all the progress I've made on my book so far and started over. I started over a few weeks ago. I did one brainstorming session and then I went on a 2-week vacation. So I took a little bit of a break. It wasn't, the vacation was planned. When I did this trashing of the book and everything was not planned. It will be a while before you see my vacation because I'm having a little bit of problems with my footage and the computer. But once that's settled, you'll definitely see my vacation. I took a 2-week road trip to New England and it was a lot of fun. I visited a lot of places and saw a lot of things. Now that I'm back from vacation, I'm ready to get started on my book again. And since I only did one little brainstorming session before, I definitely have more work to do in the brainstorming department. And my plan for the rest of this week is to finish the brainstorming. I really think I can finish everything in a week. I'm not going to be working on this every night because I do have things to do on some nights. But I do think that the time frame of the week, it's enough that I can get what I need to done. There's a few reasons for this. The first being that I have done the brainstorming process before a few months ago. I definitely took a lot of time brainstorming before. And what I realized in the whole process of writing my novel so far is that I definitely did not need to spend that much time brainstorming. It was not my most productive stage. My most productive stage was in the plotting area. So I'm just going to use the brainstorming as a simple put out a bunch of ideas, and then when I get to the plotting, I'll pick and choose what I like. And then also, as I mentioned, I've done this brainstorming before and I know what really works best for me. I am doing my brainstorming at night when I have learned I am most creative and I'm spending larger chunks of time working on this. So for example, tonight I have about 2 hours to work on brainstorming. And that's something I found in my previous brainstorming exercises is that I tended to brainstorm for like 15 minutes or 30 minutes, 10 minutes here and there. And while I would come up with ideas, I just couldn't get in a constant state of flow. And I had problems becoming more creative in a short period of time. So I think combining, my knowledge of how I work versus the knowledge of what works best for me in terms of plotting versus brainstorming. I think a week is sufficient to do what I need to do for this novel, and then I'll just move on to the plotting stage and get a lot of the work done in there. So tonight my goal is to work on the beginning of the book and also kind of work on possibly developing the plot out very broadly from the beginning to middle to end, just to see if I can come up with like a 1 or 2 sentence storyline. In the previous brainstorming session that I did a few weeks ago, I focused mostly on the background and the past. What was happening in the world 50 years ago and 100 years ago, and what was happening to the characters in their youth, or what was happening in the political arena before my book started. And I did get a lot of good ideas for that out, and I don't think I need to brainstorm on that anymore. I am going to review my notes from the last time just to get kind of back into things, and then I'll focus mostly on the current aspects of the book. I've got my pen and paper right here and it's time for me to get brainstorming. So it's time to call it a night for tonight. I'm definitely not finished brainstorming the whole story yet, but I did make a lot of progress. So I was just checking and I've got about 2 pages of notes for brainstorming. I think it was really productive. I did focus a lot on trying to develop a course for the story. Very vague in general, but a few different options of how the characters could move through the story, how the concept could develop through the story, and then also like possible endings to the story. And what I found really helpful was I would write out a question. Like, let me see if I can find an example that doesn't give anything away, because you know I don't do spoilers. Okay, I don't have a good example that I can easily tell you, but I'll just make one up off the top of my head. So what I would typically do is when I'm brainstorming and I come across like a major theme or something I need to investigate or be able to explain at some point in the novel, I just write out a short question like, what is the problem? Or where is the character going? And then I just brainstorm ideas. I don't stick to one and develop it out. I just come up with different ideas. Like, maybe they're doing this activity, or, maybe I list 4 different activities the character is planning on doing. And then my goal later will be to look at it, see how it will fit with the story, and pick kind of one thing the character is doing. But right now I just want to develop multiple ideas. And what I've found as I go through this is the ideas get more interesting as I spend more time developing them. The first few things I write out are very general, something that may come to me pretty easily. But then the more I think about it and dwell on it, I tend to come up with, I guess, more unique or interesting items, the more I try and come up with multiple things. I found this question method really helpful, especially the list making aspect of answering the question. I think it's helping me develop that creativeness and come up with more interesting points for my story. Okay, it's getting late and I actually have to go into the office tomorrow, so I've got to get ready for bed, but I will be back at it in a few days and for you in a few seconds. Another day, another brainstorming session. And it's actually the next day. I wasn't planning on brainstorming tonight, but it turns out that I was supposed to go to ballet class. I went into the office today. I'm physically exhausted. And I found that when I am physically exhausted and I go to ballet class, I end up doing very poorly and I get frustrated with myself. So it's just better if I don't go. And it's an especially good day to brainstorm today because as I was sitting in my car in traffic on the way home from work today, this really awesome idea popped into my head, and I'm very excited to explore it. So this idea came to me, and as I thought about it in the car, I just realized that it could really set up and tie in the beginning of the story and kind of the middle of the story, which is what I was missing this whole time from my brainstorming and my story. And so I really want to spend tonight just focusing on that one idea and seeing where it can take me. And then depending on how much progress I make with that, I may move on towards the end of the story. But this idea really excites me, and I think it is exactly what my story needs. So I've got my stuff here. It's time to brainstorm. So I'm calling it a night. It's pretty early. I only brainstormed for maybe about 45 minutes, and it's okay. I didn't expect to spend hours brainstorming tonight. I mentioned earlier how I was physically tired from the day, and it's really starting to show. It's about 8:30 and I am ready to fall asleep. I think it's wise for me to stop my mind is drifting off and my eyes feel heavy and I'm tired. So it's just not a good time to brainstorm anymore. I did get enough done on that little topic that I wanted to. I'm really excited about it. I think it will go well into my story and it's kind of exciting. And it was just fun to have an idea that was easily brainstormable, something that I couldn't possibly incorporate into my story. So now that that's done, I am going to get ready for bed, and tomorrow I will do more brainstorming. I'm going to try something different tomorrow and do brainstorming outside. It is beautiful weather right now, and I think a little change of scenery might be good because I tend to do all my brainstorming right here. And so it'd be nice to go change my scenery. I've never done brainstorming outside. I think it'll be better actually because when I'm inside, I tend to get distracted with what's going on around me. But if I'm outside, I won't have any of my things outside and it'll just be nature and city sounds. And maybe I'll focus a little bit better. Who knows? We'll find out tomorrow. Okay, I just finished my brainstorming session for the day. It was very productive. I came up with some really nice ideas for the end of my story. Now, they are nowhere near complete. It is kind of vague, and I need to do more thinking in terms of maybe elaborating more on the vagueness, but it was a good starting place. And like I've said from the beginning, this is just brainstorming. It's not going to be the complete plot. I'm going to work on that later. This was just to get ideas out and to develop some fun things for my story. Since this was the end, and I did a pretty good job coming up with some ideas for the end, I am almost done brainstorming. I'm just gonna give it one more day and I'll work on it tomorrow, only for a short period of time. I really enjoyed being outside. It was fun to just be in a different surrounding and hear different noises and see different things. I really enjoyed being on the grass. It was very nice, especially because my book is a fantasy novel. And, there is a lot of nature in fantasy novels, at least in the setting that I have. So it was nice to kind of be reminded about where my book takes place in a loose sense. I'm going to see where the holes are. Tomorrow I'm going to review and kind of do a little more work. And then that should be it. I am looking forward to today because it is the very last day of brainstorming. I spent many days this week brainstorming ideas for my novel. I feel confident that I've made enough progress to move forward in the process and start plotting the novel. It was never my intention to spend a lot of time brainstorming. I really want to get into this quickly. What I'm going to do today, since it's my last session, is just go through all the notes I've got. I should have looked, but I think it's like 7 to 9 pages of notes. I'm going to go through them, see if there's anything that's really missing in terms of brainstorming, focus in on those little missing parts a little bit, and then wrap it up. So I'm going to get right into it and work on this. It shouldn't take too long, and then I'll follow up with you after to let you know how this week has been. Okay, I'm done with brainstorming. It was definitely quick today. I knew it would be. There was a few things that I felt like I needed to brainstorm further, and I did that. And I'm really excited about where this book might be going. As this is a brainstorming, I do have lots of ideas written down, and I won't use all of them, or I'll use some of the ideas to come up with like a better idea. But the importance this week was just to get the ideas flowing so I can start working on the plot of my book. Overall, I found this week to be really productive. I got a lot done. I worked when I was the most creative, and I worked in large chunks of time. And I think that was the way to work for me. I was able to get a lot done in a shorter duration of time. So, the 1 week. I feel really accomplished about what I've done. And my next step will be plotting my book. I will be using the index card method. I have yet to decide if I will jump right into that or if I'll think about the plot a little more before I start it. But that will be the next thing that I do.